And welcome to HTCG, and today we are taking a look at the undead creatures. And let's just dive straight into these undead monstrosities with the Drauga. The Drauga, based off Viking mythology, believed to be an undead warrior. We wanted to go a little bit more monstrous with it, so to dehumanize it we gave it a type of bull-like head, which also ties into that typical false rendition of the Vikings having the big horned helmets. So I'm sure some of you can understand why we did that, and I hope you really enjoy the Drauga and our depiction of it. We wanted to make sure that the Drauga had a unique, so as per the Drauga's stats, we're looking at a 3/2/2, so it has a 3 attack, which is above par for a one-shot creature, so definitely a useful one to have in your team. Its effect isn't very useful when on the field, but can be great if you can generate some strategy to bring the Drauga back in order to sacrifice it again. And up next we have the Ghoul with its dormant pathogen. Now, what do zombies like to do? Zombies like to bite things, and when they bite things they make more zombies. That is what the Ghoul does. Okay, so when this creature destroys another creature, free summon a creature of the same species as this creature from your graveyard. So remember, species is referring to the creature name, which is Ghoul, but we also have a variation called a Cindered Ghoul. This means that you're able to bring back Cindered Ghouls from your graveyard using this Ghoul effect. So a very simple card, can be a little bit difficult to pull off because the Ghoul does have a low attack when you compare it to larger level shard creatures. But if you put the right strategy in place, the Ghoul can be a very deadly creature. And I always get excited when I see a Ghoul out on the field because I know with the right strategy it is capable of some sheer torment. And now moving on to the Visitant. Now this is the first of our undeads that have a title, which is Cloaked. So Cloaked allows this creature to remain unseen while on the field. It can lurk in the shadows and only strike when it feels like it. Though we do have some effects that can reveal the Visitant, for the most time it remains safe. Its stats are a standard 2/2/2, but its attack does have fear, which essentially forces a one-on-one fight with anything that it chooses to fight with. So fear essentially represents that all of the creatures can't assist with the creature that it's targeting, they are being feared, which is very useful to prevent counter attacks. Especially with the Visitant only being a 2 health creature, it can be very vulnerable when it moves in for an attack. Its effect, Ghostly Calling. When this creature is summoned, send an undead from your hand to the graveyard or search your deck and draw one phased creature that costs 2 shards or fewer to your hand. This means the Visitant really ties in with undead and phase decks. But in set 1, phase creatures weren't really viable. As we are working on set 2, phase is really coming into its own and is developing this very scary theme. Alright, and onto our 2 shard creatures, we have another phase undead for you, the White. Now the White has a creature title called Spellbreaker. This means that this undead creature is capable of also targeting your spell cards. It doesn't necessarily have to attack creatures, it can go straight for your spells, get into your back line and start disrupting from there. So if you set up some important channel spells, things that will buff your creatures, the White is the lock that will pick your defense and take you down from the inside. Its 4 attack is quite standard for a 2 shard creature, along with its 4 health. It has a weak counter, but I think it makes up for that with its effect, Copy Corpse. When this creature is in your hand or on the field, this creature gains the effect of the creature that is currently at the top of your graveyard. So the last thing that was destroyed and sent to your graveyard, this creature can mimic. Now that opens up the White to endless possibilities, and that makes it very exciting for the future. So the more that we add new cards with new creature effects, the more the White comes into its own. This creature will only get stronger in time, and that really excites me. Now our 2 shard nether undead creature, which I feel is a staple for any undead deck at the current time, is the Reaper. Even though it has below par stats with a 3/3/2 for a 2 shard creature, Its effect is so strong. If you can utilize this creature correctly, you are generating shards so quickly, you are going to run out of creatures to summon in your hand very fast. So, Soul Collector, when this creature destroys another creature, you gain shards equal to the destroyed creature's shard cost. And now, of course, with it being the stats that it is, it can only really pick off one shard creatures. But if you are able to find a way to give it a little buff, to get it out there a bit more, this thing is gonna wreak havoc. If you are looking to build an undead deck in Shard TCG, grab a Reaper or two. They will serve you well. And right now, I hope you're all enjoying watching this video, as I am enjoying making this video, talking about the OG undead creatures that we have. It's nice to look back over and assess these creatures, and I hope this information will be useful to you. If you think so, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, as it really helps out the channel. And now let's take a look at some of the big undead creatures. I love the artwork for the Geist, especially the background, as I think it was the first time I tried a silhouetted background and I saw how effective the silhouettes can be. Sometimes adding more detail can just take away from the creature. The background really just set the ambience for the Geist, and I love the ghastly green glow that's behind it as well. Now, the Geist just being a big bag of flesh, there's no bones in there. It pops out of corpses with its corpse parasite effect. So when an undead is destroyed, you may free summon this creature from your hand or graveyard into the position of the destroyed undead. When this creature is destroyed, banish this creature. So this stops the effect from being used again and again and again, which is good because we were finding some trouble in the early days. The Geist was very strong, Undead was definitely overpowered, and it was hard to take out those decks. But even though the effect was nerfed, I still find the Geist very viable. Definitely worth having one or two in your deck just to surprise your opponent, have them pop out there and just wreak a little bit of extra havoc. Alright, now we are entering the 3 shard creatures, and we're starting off with the Necrovore. Now, the Necrovore has below par stats if we take a look here. It's got a 6 health, which is very standard, but it uses Slash and Ambush, which are both only 3 damage. Now, Ambush does have Swarm with it, which means it can swarm with other creatures that use Ambush. Ambush right now is relevant with a couple of other wolf looking creatures, so there's a nice tie in there. We will have to add more wolf creatures in the future, but if you're wanting to start creating a wolf/dog type deck, the Necrovore is a good one to have in it, especially with its effect Corpse Hunter. Once per turn, banish 1 creature from your graveyard. This creature gains +1 strength equal to the shard cost of the banished creature. So if you've got a 2 or 3 shard creature there, you can easily banish it and gain 2 or 3 strength tokens onto this Necrovore, which drastically boosts its attack. Of course, you can easily double its attack. So this creature needs a little bit more to get out there, but if you can keep it out and banish a couple of creatures within a couple of turns, it is above the curve. This creature is a very good boy, and he has a bone to pick with your opponent if you give him the chance. Now, the Wendigo. This is a very early art indeed. I don't think I've ever made anything else like this, but it's a nice touch. It's not too jarring of an artifact. I just wanted to really go with the silhouette feel of it. As you can see, the background again, very silhouetted. There's not a lot of colour on this. The only real colour is the campfire that's sitting in front of it. But if we're diving into the Wendigo's stats, we're starting off with its creature title, which is Tormentor. This means that the Wendigo wants to be targeted. It's the exact opposite of Cloaked. It is out there. It is going to draw in all the attacks. This is your tank of a creature. Now, it has an attack named Rake, which inflicts 5 damage, which is excellent for taking out 1 and 2 shard creatures. So if you can get this creature out early enough, you can really cut your opponent off from getting stronger things out. It has a 1 block cold presence, which means it can tank up to 7 damage before it is destroyed. It has a similar effect to the Drauga, where it has soul conduit. So when this creature is sacrificed, this creature is sent to the graveyard instead of the void. So it is actually very good for getting rid of if it receives wounds and things like that, because it can go to the graveyard. And undead enjoy being in the graveyard because they're a little bit easier to get back out of the graveyard. So it makes an excellent effect for this creature. Now the big boy, and I don't use that word lightly. We've got the Bodak, this big, disgusting, oozing, diseased corpse. Okay, so this creature has a very low attack but a very good effect, okay? So for 4 shards, we want it to be worth it. Now with 9 health for a 4 shard, that is above the curve. So we know that this is a tanky fellow. Plus he's got a 1 block, so he can tank up to 10 damage before being taken out. But with its effect Corpse Eater, once per turn, banish 1 undead from your graveyard. You gain +1 shard. So this is your soul generator tank on your field. He's not going to be your game ender, but he is going to stop your opponent from taking you out. He's going to slow it down, let you gain up all those shards, and then you can get out the real game ender. Definitely more suited for players who like to be a little bit more reserved, but hopefully if it suits your needs, it will find a place in your deck. Now lastly, we have the Amalgalitch, a 5 shard undead creature. And for people who want to know how rare this is, in set 1 we only had 2 5 shard creatures. As 5 shards is a very luxurious cost, we didn't want to flood 5 shards into the game right away. So set 1 has 2 5 shard creatures, set 2 has 3 5 shard creatures, so there are only 5 5 shard creatures in existence right now. So the Amalgalitch also has the title Champion, and Champion means that essentially this is your champion. You can't have 2 champions, you have to elect 1 champion. So if you have another champion in your hand, you have to wait for this one to be removed from the field first. This creature title is a good limitation because we don't have to set up ban lists and things like that for the Amalgalitch, as it essentially limits itself with its effect. And also seeing a champion title on a card looks amazing. I always love the look of a champion title. Now 10 health, this is very strong of course. Remember the Bodak with 9 health and 1 block could tank up to 10 damage. This creature can tank up to 10 damage, and then it's got its block on top of that, which is Ankylorian Armor, which has up to 3 blocks, so that's crazy. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure the Amalgalitch has the strongest tanking capabilities out of all creatures in Shard, so it is a very defensive 5 Shard creature in that sense. But that doesn't mean it can't hurt creatures as well, as it has its attack Soul Devourer, where it inflicts up to 8 damage with that, which is a massive amount and will take out most creatures. But what makes the Amalgalitch amazing is its Grave Waker effect. During the main or aftermath phases, you may summon any undead from your graveyard for their shard cost reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. So let's take example the Amalgalitch combined with a Wendigo. Essentially you can sacrifice the Wendigo from the field and gain 3 shards. Then the Amalgalitch can summon it back to the field for 2 shards. Of course, when a creature is summoned to the field, it can't be sacrificed again right away, so you can't create an infinite loop with this, which is very fortunate, as you can just create infinite shards, of course, so that's very dangerous. And also triggering effects that have summoning triggers. So that was just a small example of what the Amalgalitch is capable of. I'm sure other people have come up with more amazing strategies to use with the Amalgalitch, but it is definitely a deadly card, shouldn't be underestimated. And as Shard is progressing, there are more accessible ways of generating shards, which means the Amalgalitch will only become easier to get out in the future, which honestly is very scary, and we must prepare for the Amalgalitch. The Amalgalitch is coming to get us all, and we need to be prepared. Okay guys, so that was the Undead creature breakdown. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I really enjoyed doing this video. I haven't done one of these in a good long time. It is nice to finally be doing the Undead. So I hope to see you next time. If you haven't already, Don't forget to hit that like button and have fun browsing YouTube today.